Hey guys, I'm out here working on the 67 Chevelle. Got the rear cover off our differential here, and I am getting ready to install this rear disc brake kit on the car. So I went ahead and I pulled the rear cover off the differential, drained the oil out, and I've got to get the axle shafts pulled out. So to do that, got to remove the pin in the differential. So I'll pull this bolt out here. That way I can get that pin to slide out. Once that slides out, you'll have access to both of the C-clips. You can move the shafts inward and both C-clips can be pulled, and then the axle shafts can be removed themselves. Now I'll go ahead and remove this bolt, and then I'll come back. Alright, so the bolt is removed. Put that down, and then I can remove the cross pin for the rear differential. Actually just slides out there. So now that that is out, I can get access to my C-clips and remove the axle shafts. So what I'll do is I'll come out to the axle shaft, I'll push it in now that that pin's out, and you can see I have access to my C-clip. So what I have to do is I'll get a magnet, stick it in there, and pull that C-clip out. So I'll go get a magnet, and then I'll come back. Alright, so you can see that C-clip pulled right out of there. Got a little bit of metal shavings on there, so let's take a look at that. But that's the first one. Go over to the driver's side now. I will shove that axle shaft in. See the C-clip is sitting right there. Sometimes these can be a little bit of a bear to get out of there, but usually just got to play with it just a little bit, and you can eventually get them worked out of there. So there's the other side. So now with both of the C-clips out, can actually come out here, grab the axle shaft itself, and pull the entire thing out. And you'll need these both removed in order to install your backing plates for the Wilwood rear disc brake. So with those removed, I'm ready to start the install. Alright, so here is the part number for the rear disc brake kit that I purchased through Wilwood. Part number there is 140-11398-DR. So yeah, with everything ready to go, I put some rags in the rear differential. Now that I've got everything pulled, I can go ahead and get started with the install. So I'll get everything opened up, and I guess a good thing to note here on these backing plates is the orientation of them. They are side dependent. So if you flip them around, you can see one is marked L. This one here goes on the left hand side, and the other one is marked R, so it goes right hand side. So just an important note there when you are installing these. So one of the few things that Wilwood actually doesn't provide in the kit are the bolts for the backing plates. So you have to reuse or get new bolts for them, but pretty much everything else is included in the kit. So to start out, you want to line these plates up and get your bolts started. Wilwood does recommend putting some Loctite on these when you go to install them, so you just want to keep that in mind as you're installing. So now you can see I'll go around and I'll snug each one of these bolts up, and then I will come back and torque all 4 of them. Alright, so I'm coming back through with my torque wrench now, and all 4 of these bolts get torqued down to 30 foot-pounds. Now with all 4 bolts torqued, I can reinsert my axle shaft, and I had to come in and remove these rags, that way I could get it to rotate just a tiny bit, but it slid right into place. And I'll go ahead and repeat the same process on this side, that way I can get both axle shafts back in the vehicle. You can see this backing plate here has the R on it, so this is the passenger side backing plate. But I'll go ahead and I'll get this thing installed, that way axle shafts can be reinstalled, and I can put the C-clips back in place and finalize the install. Okay, so with the axle shafts back in, I can now come back and install my C-clips. Alright, it's tough to get a good angle on this with my hand in the way, but what I'm doing is I'm taking the C-clip now and sliding it into place on the shaft. Alright, so the driver's side C-clip is in, and that's kind of tough to see. I'll move the camera over to the passenger side. Maybe we can get a little bit better view of this as I install it. You can see the axle shaft just slid in, and now I just need to take my C-clip, which I cleaned up really well, and reinsert it on the notch that's built into the axle shaft. There it is. Okay, now both C-clips are in. I can reinstall my cross pin and get that thing bolted into place. Alright, so we got the bolt in. I'm not completely sure what we're going to do with this rear differential yet, so I'm not going to button everything up, but we'll go ahead and move on to installing the rest of the kit. Alright, the next part of the install is putting this rotor adapter in place. You can see the part number there, but this thing gets installed on your axle shaft, and I will go ahead and pull off all of these lug nuts while I'm here, because they're going to have to come off regardless to get the rotor installed, of course. And I just realized I flipped that the wrong way. So you can see that lip should sit on the outside. That's actually what the rotor rides on. So with everything ready to go, I can install the rear rotor. And you gotta play around with it a little bit here. There's so many holes for all the different potential lug patterns. So you're gonna have to rotate probably a few times to find the offset that matches up with your vehicle. But once you get that lined up, push it into place, and then Wilwood recommends installing a few of these lugs to kind of keep that thing seated on the rotor adapter. So once you get it pushed up into place, install at least 3 of these lugs just to keep it installed. Okay, so with that in place, now we can install our caliper. Part numbers here. Like the front, we got the red powder coated rear calipers, and those come with a bolt kit. Part number for that is here. And you can see, just like the front, we've got some shims we're going to be working with as we go to install this. So once you've got the caliper out of the box, Wilwood recommends when you go to install it, putting 2 shims between the bracket and the caliper. This is a very similar procedure to what was done on the front of the vehicle. So you can see I just got the upper bolt in place, running that down by hand, and then I'll come back with a open-end wrench just to tighten both of those bolts up. So with everything snugged up, now what I want to do is go ahead and test fit the brake pads just to make sure that they're contacting the rotor evenly on both sides. So I removed the retainer at the top. First brake pad is going in. Second one's going in, and you can see on the outside I am tight against the rotor. So what I need to do is pull this caliper back off and remove one of those shims in order to give me additional clearance on the outer brake pad. Okay, so I removed the shim. I came back and checked to confirm that the brake pads would fit. I Loctited everything, torqued those 2 caliper bolts down to 40 foot-pounds, and now I'm finalizing the install over here. So brake pads are in, as you can see. I'm reinstalling the retaining clip at the top that slides through both of the brake pads, and then I will reinstall that small retaining bolt on the backhand side. Alright, so now with the caliper and brake pads fully installed, I can come back out and remove the lug nuts. That way I can reinstall my wheel and tire and make sure that I don't have any rubbing and that everything fits okay. So what I'll do is I'll install 2 or 3 of these lug nuts, and then I'll get behind the wheel and tire to make sure that I've got good clearance all the way around, that nothing's going to interfere or rub or anything like that. So it's always a good idea to check that when you're installing one of these kits before you finalize it. Okay, so with everything done on the driver's side, I'm now going to repeat the process on the passenger side. So everything's really just rinse and repeat. So I'll try to speed this up, but really the process is the same as the other side. Alright, so that's it. The kit is fully installed. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more content.